Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great lineup for you tonight. John Cornett's been working in the garden, and we have Scott Sky Johnson standing by, ready to bring some new music. Welcome back, Scott.
Good to be here. I love coming on your show.
We love having you, and thanks for coming down and playing at the Global Marijuana March here in Portland,
that
too.
was so much fun.
That was a great set. And then right here on our set, we have Dale Petersdorf is back, and we have from Project Scarecrow. I guess we're on, yeah, there you are. And Darlene Mia with Hempington Post is here, back for the first time in a couple of years.
Yes, yes.
And for the first time ever, I am honored to have Pete Gendron on the show. Did I say that right?
Gendron, yes.
Gendron, okay. Welcome back, or welcome to the show for the first time.
Thank you very
You
much.
got a name tag. That makes it easy.
They insist that I wear this in case I forget my own name.
I understand. We all should do that. We all should. We have some interesting news and other developments, a few good video clips. So stand by as we bring on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves. Here they are.
I feel the force.
Okay, our first story tonight is from right here in the Beaver State, Oregon, land of the Sasquatch. From Salem, Oregon, lawmakers have advanced legislation, Senate Bill 970, prohibiting landlords from taking discriminatory action against those who either use medical cannabis or possess cannabis-related convictions. The measure awaits action from Democratic Governor Kate Brown. The measure states that a landlord may not take into consideration an applicant's, quote, status as a medical marijuana patient, end quote, or whether they have had a conviction based solely on the use or possession of marijuana. Once signed, the new law takes effect on January 1st, 2020. Also, Oregon lawmakers voted in favor of legislation, Senate Bill 420, to facilitate the expungement of past marijuana convictions. Following a concurrent vote by the Senate, the measure will advance to Democratic Governor Kate Brown, who's anticipated to sign the bill into law. The measure establishes procedures for persons to have their criminal records expunged, the ones previously found guilty of 1 ounce possession. They have to file a motion with the court to have their conviction set aside. Petitioners may not be charged a fee for submitting such a request, and any objections to the request by prosecutors have to be filed within 30 days. That doesn't really happen much. The proposal expands upon prior legislation enacted in 2015, which sought to make it easier for those with past marijuana convictions to have their records expunged. Once signed, the new law takes effect on January 1st, 2019. The policy is similar to marijuana-related expungement laws recently enacted in a number of states, including Colorado, Delaware, Massachusetts, Nevada, Rhode Island, and Washington State. California law automatically expunges past marijuana convictions. From Springfield, Illinois, House and Senate lawmakers have advanced legislation to the Illinois governor legalizing the adult use of cannabis and regulating its commercial production and retail sale. Illinois Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker is anticipated to sign the measure into law imminently. Under the measure, Illinois residents who are 21 or older may possess legally up to 30 grams of cannabis, while those visiting from out of state may legally possess half that amount. Those patients enrolled in the state's medical cannabis access program will be permitted for the first time to legally home cultivate up to 5 marijuana plants. Non-patients face civil fines of no more than $200 for growing for personal use quantities Under the current law, minor marijuana cultivation offenses are punishable by up to 1 year in prison and a $2,500 fine. The bill also facilitates the expedited expungement of low-level minor convictions while also establishing a process to vacate more serious offenses. Under the plan, licensed medical dispensaries will have the first go at these licenses and an opportunity to engage in adult use marijuana sales. New applicants will be able to access low-interest loans in order to defray startup costs. Once signed, the new law will take effect on January 1st, 2020. Illinois becomes the 11th state to legalize adult use marijuana possession. It's only the second state to legalize marijuana use via legislative action rather than by voter initiative, and it is the first state to legislatively regulate cannabis sales. Several developments occurred in Washington, D.C. concerning federal cannabis law and policies. In a change of trajectory, the powerful Appropriations Committee in the House of Representatives has, for the first time, included limited protections for cannabis businesses engaged in the legal marketplace in 33 states. Included in the appropriations package are 2 sections that address the growing tension between federal prohibition and criminalization of marijuana and the emerging state legal marketplaces, as well as a deleterious section of language that's currently in effect and which is omitted in the new version of the bill. State legal medical programs, since 2014, there's been a spending restriction that prevents the Department of Justice from spending 1 penny or a paperclip to take action against state legal medical cannabis programs. This language was first introduced in the House in 2001, and for the first time in history, it's now included in what is referred to as the base text, meaning that its inclusion did not require a vote. Also, there's the Safe Banking Act. As many who live in legal cannabis states know, cannabis businesses have a real banking problem, primarily that they do not have bank accounts. This leads the industry to operate on an all-cash basis, providing a difficult and undue burden on both businesses and consumers. This language has been approved by multiple votes, yet stripped out during the conference committee hearings in the legislatures in 2014, 15, and 16. This year marks the first time the language was included in the base text. DC legalization was also addressed. Implementation. In 2014, residents of the District of Columbia voted overwhelmingly to end prohibition and criminalization in order to pave the way for the Washington, D.C. City Council to implement a regulated marketplace for adult use cannabis. Yet the Republican House at the time, led by Representative Andy Harris, a Republican of Maryland, decided to interfere and prevent D.C. from self-determination on this issue. The only real reason that Congress was able to take this action against the city and not similarly against other states that have legalized was due to the disenfranchisement of D.C. residents stemming from their legal status as a territory and not an independent state. The fiscal year 2020 appropriations bill marks the first time that this language has not been included in the House appropriations package. Also out of Washington, D.C., representative of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration responded to a day-long public testimony that was taken on last Friday regarding the establishment of retail sales of CBD-infused products. The agency held its first ever public hearing dedicated to the issue surrounding the manufacturing, product quality, marketing, labeling, and sale of hemp-derived CBD-infused retail products. So this is to clarify confusion among both consumers and regulators with regard to the legality of certain CBD products and provide regulatory guidelines governing the product's manufacturing, standardization, and quality. Following the conclusion of the hearing, Dr. Amy Abernathy, the Principal Deputy Commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, issued a series of tweets concurring that, quote, there's a need to further clarify the regulatory framework to reduce confusion in the marketplace. Consumers need consistent information and labeling, and further stress the need for objective lab testing of retail products. Recently, third-party testing of over 240 commercially available CBD-infused products reported that many of them contain heavy metals such as lead and arsenic, and that they typically contain less than advertised quantities of CBD, if any at all. Dr. Abernathy concluded, quote, speakers reinforced the regulatory pathways are unclear. We must sort this out in service of public health. We'll work as quickly as possible to define a way forward, end quote. In December, Congress enacted legislation removing industrial hemp, defined as cannabis containing less than 0.3% THC, and products containing cannabinoids derived from hemp from the Federal Controlled Substances Act. The following day, the FBI stated, quote, Congress explicitly preserved the agency's current authority to regulate products containing cannabis or cannabis-derived compounds under the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act and Section 351 of the Public Health Service Act. The agency further opined it's unlawful under the FD&C Act to introduce food containing added CBD or THC into interstate commerce or to market CBD or THC products as or in dietary supplements, regardless of whether the substances are hemp-derived, end quote. This past March, outgoing FDA Director Scott Gottlieb testified to Congress that it could take up to 4 years for the FDA to create a regulatory pathway for the retail sale of CBD-infused food products or health food supplements. The agency continues to selectively target manufacturers who it believes are marketing CBD-infused products in a manner that violates the FDA's interpretation of the law. Our next story is from Baltimore, Maryland. Health professionals overwhelmingly support the use of medical cannabis among patients in hospice care, according to data published in the Journal of Palliative Medicine. Investigators from the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy surveyed a nationally representative sample of 310 hospice professionals, primarily nurses, from 40 states. 91% of the respondents endorsed the use of medical cannabis among hospice patients. 90% of the respondents said they have fielded questions from patients regarding the use of medical cannabis, and 73% acknowledging having cared for a patient who had used it. The authors reported, quote, regardless of the legal status, hospice staff overwhelmingly support patient access to medical cannabis. Those who practice in states where medical cannabis is not yet legal wish that it was, end quote. They concluded, quote, the consensus of our survey sample is that medical cannabis appears to be relatively safe and effective for a variety of conditions used by several routes of administration. Our findings highlight important opportunities to support hospice providers and their patients through education and development of policies. This study, a survey of hospice professionals regarding medical cannabis practices, appears in this month's edition of the Journal of Palliative Medicine. Out of Trenton, New Jersey, representatives of the New Jersey Department of Health announced this week that regulators intend to license up to 108 additional medical cannabis facilities over the coming months. Up to half of the new facilities will operate as dispensaries, while the others will operate as cultivars and manufacturers. Prior to this week's announcement, regulators had capped the total number of dispensaries in New Jersey to no more than 12. The agency acknowledged in a statement, quote, due to the growing patient population served by the medicinal marijuana program over the course of 2018 and 2019, and the projected future expansion outlined in New Jersey's biennial report, the department has determined that additional facilities are necessary to meet the needs of the population of qualified patients, end quote. Over 47,500 patients are registered to access medical marijuana under New Jersey's program. Separate legislation, Assembly Bill 10, to further amend and expand the state's medical cannabis law is expected to be advanced to the governor next week. And multiple newsworthy developments occurred on cannabis reform in Nevada this week. Democratic Governor Steve Sisolak had signed legislation, Senate Bill 430, expanding the pool of patients eligible for medical cannabis therapy. The measure allows patients diagnosed with anxiety disorder, autism, chronic pain, opioid dependency, and other conditions to obtain recommendation for medical cannabis. The act becomes effective on July 1st, 2019. An estimated 18,000 Nevadans are now registered with the state to access medical cannabis products. Of course, adult use cannabis is legal in Nevada too. Governor Sisolak also signed legislation into law facilitating the ability of those with past marijuana crimes to have their records sealed. Assembly Bill 192 permits those convicted of marijuana-specific activities, which have since been decriminalized or legalized, to submit a written request to the court to have those records sealed. Petitioners may not be charged a fee for submitting such a request, and any objection to the request must be filed within 10 days. Upon signing the bill, the governor stated, quote, "It's time to provide a better future for those who face barriers to success because of an old marijuana conviction. I'm proud to sign this bill that will provide a better life for so many Nevadans," end quote. This new law takes effect on July 1st, 2019 as well, about 3 weeks. The measure is similar to newly enacted laws in several other states, including California, Colorado, Delaware, Massachusetts, Maryland, New Mexico, Oregon, Rhode Island, Utah, and Washington, facilitating either the expungement or the sealing of prior marijuana convictions, or in some case other criminal violations. The governor separately signed House Bill 431, restoring voting rights to felons immediately following their release from prison, which also becomes effective on July 1st. And finally, Governor Sisolak signed legislation into law prohibiting certain employers from refusing to hire a worker because he or she tested positive for cannabis. The new law takes effect on January 1st, 2020. And Assembly Bill 132 makes it unlawful for any employer in Nevada to fail or refuse to hire a prospective employee because the prospective employee submitted to a screening test and the results of the screening test indicate the presence of marijuana, end quote. Law is not applicable to prospective employees seeking certain safety-sensitive positions, such as those seeking employment as firefighters, emergency medical technicians, or federally licensed drivers. Earlier this year, New York City lawmakers enacted municipal legislation barring non-safety sensitive employees or employers from administering marijuana drug tests to prospective employees. Urinalysis drug screening, which is most commonly utilized by employers, detects the presence of inactive marijuana metabolites. The residual presence of these compounds may be detectable in urine for several weeks or even months following cannabis abstinence. In recent days, the governor of Nevada has also signed legislation into law facilitating financial institutions to work with licensed marijuana businesses and to process financial transactions. That is the end of our Hemp News segment tonight, and Scott Sky Johnson is standing by ready to play us a song. Welcome back, Scott.
Good to be here. It seems like this song was like written for this show, because when I wrote this back in the 90s, it was kind of out there, but right now it feels really relevant. So here we go. There is a plant that we all know was illegal, but why that is, I really can't see. 'Cause it's something that could help us change this path of destruction we're on when we change to a hemp economy. Many centuries it has been used to make paper, 4 times more fiber per acre than trees. We could save our ancient forest. It's renewable every year when we change to a hemp economy. Because 1/4 of all the pesticides and herbicides sprayed on Mother Earth are sprayed there by the cotton industry. Well, did I mention you can make a finer cloth from its stalk when we change? Why don't we change? Well, the oil has got more seed per pound than any other plant. We could refine it to make cleaner gasoline, reduce pollution from combustion by 80% just by changing to a hemp economy. And the seed has more protein per pound than any other plant. We could feed it to all of our world's hungry it grows like a weed in all 50 states, even builds up your soil when we change to a hemp economy. You know, unlike alcohol, it can reduce your stress, open your mind up along with your capillaries. A pharmacopoeia of medicine from glaucoma to pain. When we change, why don't we change? There is a plant that we all knew as illegal, but why that is, I really cannot see. Here is something that could help us change this path of destruction we're on. Why don't we change? Can't you see? We could change our reality just by changing to a hemp economy. Yeah, we gotta change. And guess what? We've changed. Yeah.
Things have changed since the 90s. But that song is still sorely needed, I think. You know, a lot of those changes are starting to happen, but they haven't yet.
You know, when I first wrote this song, people would ask me not to play it. I'd be at like benefits. Oh, that's too radical. Don't play that song. So it's really nice to see it come around to,
Right.
we need this song now.
Right.
Oh,
Amen.
Excellent.
thank you.
And A women, too. Well, I want to welcome you back, Dale, and welcome you
Paul.
back as well.
Nice to be.
And good to have you
Thank
here,
you very
Pete.
much.
So, last week we had you on, Dale, but you were on via the phone,
Yeah.
Pete, and talking about what
from
Project
4 hours
Scarecrow.
away.
Yeah. And so you all are here for the Oregon Hemp Convention, which is happening today and tomorrow at the Expo Center.
Yes, indeed.
So
Exciting.
how did it go today?
Not bad. I would say this is the 7th event that we've had branded as a hemp convention at the Expo Center. On an annual basis. We've also had a couple of more. We did a cannabis convention, and we did a hemp fest, and one year we did 2 hemp conventions. So I think this is show number 10.
There's a lot of them. There's at the same place at the Expo Center. They have the Cannabis Collaborative Conference as well.
This weekend?
No, not this
Okay.
weekend. No, it was in January this year.
But it's a very good point, because the Cannabis Collaborative Conference and the Indo Expo that's coming up this summer, these are events that were paved by the work that we did to establish the hemp convention at the Expo Center. Literally in 2012, they told us, there is no way, no how you are going to be having a party for 5,000 of your stoner friends on our hallowed grounds. And 9 months later, we were having the first hemp convention, and we're proud to bring it back for the 7th consecutive year, with several of those years having shows that were either multiple hemp conventions, cannabis conventions. What we did just 2 years ago with bringing in the Hemp Fest and
Yeah, the last
the
couple
naming
of years,
and branding.
the Seattle Hemp Fest has co-sponsored the Oregon Hemp Convention.
Yes.
But this year it's switched, and is it Kush.com
Yes.
that's involved with it now?
Kush is managing the event production for this year. It's the first year they've been brought into it.
Okay, okay. So,
So how was it today?
Not bad.
It was
Not
all
bad.
right. Yeah. You know, lots of good people showing up and asking thought-provoking questions that inspire great conversation, and I think that the industry is moving in a good direction. And if we can all talk so candidly amongst each other, like, you know, well, to our the legislators, and the regulators like we do to each other, we might actually make some progress.
Yeah.
Well, if today's turnout was any indication, we had people from Texas to Georgia to Florida, to North Carolina to Illinois, and bringing the circle back around to Oregon. We had people from other regions of the country recognizing and respecting what we've been doing in the hemp movement and expressing their interest in being a part of that as we move forward in the future. And I consider that, as an organizer and developer of this event, to be a fantastic compliment, because we now have the attention of these people from all around the country.
Its time has come.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, it's full speed ahead now.
I was just going to ask what you thought.
Well, actually, I didn't make it today, so I'm going to be there tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to it. Paul's going to be on panels tomorrow.
Yeah,
yes?
yeah. You had put me in touch with some people in Seattle that asked me to speak just like a week ago today.
Right.
And so I said, yeah. So I'll be there tomorrow. I think I got
I'm
it
excited
down
about
here.
Bye.
I will be doing market trends panel discussion at 11:15 a.m. The grow techniques tips panel at 1 p.m. and then at 2 p.m. the hemp legislation panel discussion.
That should be interesting.
Yeah. So I'm
They
not
all
sure
should be
who else will be on those panels right now. At the Cannabis Collaborative Conference, I was just told when I booked it also about a week in advance that I'd be on the panel with one other person. But in the end, there were like 4 other people too. So
It's
we'll
nice.
see how it goes. And,
Yeah.
and one of them was a guy who puts on the Cannabis Science Convention here in Portland as well. This guy, Josh
Josh Crosney?
Crosney, that's it. Thank you. Saved me. He was there. I didn't even know he was going to be there, but there he was on the panel with me.
He's a good person to have as a collaborator on a panel like that, for
That's
sure.
true. That's true. That's true. I know now he's doing the science convention in Baltimore as well. I mean, it just happened, but he's building up for the one here. I think it's in September, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, we've got about 4 months, 5 months to go on that.
So how many exhibitors were there today, if I might ask?
I would say about 150.
Exhibitors?
Yeah,
Nice.
that's quite a bit.
That's really exciting.
It
Mostly
has,
hemp?
It has been since the beginning the biggest show in the state that's been continuously running. Like I said, the Expo Center management did not exactly regard us warmly in 2015 when we approached them with the idea.
But now they love you.
Right.
I'm sorry, in 2012. In 2013, when they let us have the first show, and then going forward to, by 2015, we were doing 2 shows per year. They recognized that we had something that was a major attraction and that didn't create conflicts for them. Remember, we have to work with, as event exposition managers, we have to work with the Expo Center, we have to work with the Portland Metropolitan Police Division, we have to work with our own internal security and the external security that's required by the venue itself. There's a lot of interface there that allows this to happen seamlessly. And I'm very proud to say, as somebody who's been managing this event for years, that we haven't had a situation where the police have been involved that anybody has been wound up being hauled off to jail.
Well, thank goodness for that.
In 7 years and 10 shows, we've done a pretty good job of being the best people that are at the event grounds. And we've had, I mean, it's incredible because it's the Expo Center. So you have year to year, it's the flower show, it's the spa show, it's this year, we have a XXX show at the Expo Center, right?
Oh, really? Oh, in another one of the buildings.
And it's the RV show, and it's everything else that they've got going on. But they have always held the hemp convention in very high regard since we established this in 2013, and we very much appreciate the way that they've interfaced with us as we've developed this show over the years.
All right. Well, we'll talk more about that in just a minute. If anyone out there has any questions for any of us, you can call us. That number there on your screen, it's 503-288-4442. We also have a live audience and a microphone for them to go to off camera if they have any questions. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize a friend of mine who passed away tragically earlier this week on Tuesday the 3rd. A friend of ours, Doug Green, an activist in New York City with NORML and for marijuana reform. He's been at it about 30 years. He fell onto the subway tracks after leaving a Parliament George Clinton Funkadelic show in New York City. He was taking the subway home. He left a friend at the subway station who was riding their bike home, and a few minutes later slipped off the platform and was hit and passed away. So we have a speech that he gave back on the 6th of May, just last month, at the New York Cannabis Parade, which was the first of the global marijuana marches. And so here is Doug Green in New York City just a month ago. We'll be right back.
We're going to pivot for legislation. Please welcome back to our stage a longtime member of the Cannabis Parade and Rally and the legislative director of Empire State NORML, my friend, Mr. Doug Green.
Thank you so much, Tanya. And thank you all for coming out here. I don't know how many of you were here this morning for Midtown in the cold and the rain, but the sun has come out and is shining on us, so that is a good thing. So I want to ask a question. I wanted to know kind of why people are here today. What brought you here today? Cannabis, yes. Thank you for being here. This man, Oleg, is a king of cannabis, one of the kindest, gentlest people I know. I love him, man. I'm so glad to see him here. So, I mean, how many of you came here to party and have a good time? I mean, that's great. I did too. Actually, though, I have not ingested anything today. I'm waiting till after 5 o'clock in the after party and cleaning up. So that's when I'm going to consume. But there was a band actually out of New York City called the Talking Heads, and they had a song called Life During Wartime. And they had a line in there that said, "This ain't no party, this ain't no disco, this ain't no fooling around." And it's really not. You know, we can be here in the park and enjoying ourselves, but this is not reality. Reality is what's going on every day in the Bronx, in Brooklyn, in Queens, where there are people of color. Last year, in 2018, 81% of the arrests in New York State were of people of color, and that's mostly young men of color. Those are the statistics. They're not going after people like me. They're not going after like suburban, white, middle-aged, legal, political professionals. People who look like me and do the kind of work that I do aren't targets of the drug war. I'm not really doing this for myself. I'm doing it for the people who are being criminalized every single day. Okay, I didn't know I was supposed to sing. I really can't carry a tune. You don't want me to go there. So, you know, this is New York City, right? Are we New York City? Are we in New York City? Are we in downtown New York City? Then my question is, why isn't this plaza like overflowing with people? It really should be. And I think part of the problem is that a lot of people have gotten too comfortable, because people aren't getting arrested the way there used to be. When my beautiful sister Cassandra was up here, she said that back in 2011, there was 50,000 people a year who were getting arrested. We used to say that's enough to fill Yankee Stadium. Now it's down to about 17,000, which is more like Barclays Center, which is still too many. That's 17,500 too many. But people have gotten complacent, and we don't have a lot of time. I'm going to give you some numbers. 47 is the number of days until June 19th, which is when the session ends. And this is not a surprise to my people, but Actually, at the end of session, I am stepping down as legislative director. I may be staying on the board of directors, but I am, as they say, pursuing other opportunities, whether that's being a cannabis commentator on network TV or doing reality show production or working for Ibogaine, which is the next big thing, which I think Dana Beal, who was one of my mentors in this movement, brought me into. I am going to be doing other stuff. And I am so afraid. I am so afraid that we are not going to get this done this session. And if that doesn't happen, that means we are dead in the water until we try and do it in the budget again next spring, which means it won't happen until April 1st. So how many of you have been to the back where our tables are, where Start Smart and Empire State Normal are? Has everyone been to the back? Because if you haven't been to the back, you're missing an opportunity to get really involved in this movement. And let me tell you, if we don't have everyone here, and your friends, and your family, and the people you work with, and the people you go to school with, and the people you worship with, this is not going to happen this session. We need a multicultural, multi-generation, statewide coalition, because even though 81% of the people who get arrested are people of color, there are white people getting arrested too. Steve Bloom, my colleague from New York, from the parade, who used to work for High Times, he got busted in a parking lot before a fish show at Madison Square Garden. There's a county upstate called Hamilton County in central New York. Very few people live there. 44% of the arrests in Hamilton County are for cannabis possession. And that's mostly white people. So there's all kinds of people getting arrested. And if we don't have a coalition that embraces this entire state, from Buffalo to the East End of Long Island, from the northern tier to Staten Island, this isn't going to happen. And if this doesn't happen, this means this is a report that came out a week ago from the Rockefeller Institute of Government, which is one of the most... this is from the Rockefeller Institute of Government. This is one of the preeminent think tanks in New York State, based up in Albany, and they did a report about the economic impact of what would happen if it was legalized. And at the bottom range, this is the most conservative estimate. They estimated about 31,000 jobs and about $4 billion for the state of New York. $4 billion in economic activity. And that's the low end of the range. It could be as high as 60,000 and $8 billion. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of reinvestment in the communities that need it. So my question to you is this. Why are you here? I want to party and have a good time too, and I can't wait to do that after 5 o'clock. But I'm here to change the laws. I'm here to make a difference. I'm here for cannabis justice, and you should be too. And I think that's it. Please come talk to us.
Wow.
So that is our friend Doug Green. Doug had been an activist for a long time. Shortly after leaving a George Clinton Parliament Funkadelic concert in New York City, he fell off the subway platform and passed away. He came out here and visited us in 2014. He also is a dedicated activist for animal rights and a vegan. We visited a few different vegan restaurants. There he is in our Portland garden from back in July of 2014, so just about 5 years ago. And so we just have to honor the memory of Doug Green and send our blessings and prayers for him. And there he is with another friend of ours who also passed away, another dedicated cannabis activist, Ray Crissell, who passed away a few years back. So both of those people have been lost. But
the fragility of life.
It is, you know, you just never know what's going to happen from one minute to the next. He was happy at a concert with his friends, and a few minutes later, a tragic accident just took him.
Well, I like his final question, why are you here?
Yeah.
Why are you here unless you're making an impact, you know?
He was just 52.
Wow.
And so way too young for that.
Well, he
so
made
Darlene,
a statement. Yes.
you were making an impact and doing the Hempington Post. Tell us about the Hempington Post. I know you wanted to talk about some of the news stories that we opened the show with.
I definitely want to talk about that because, and that's kind of what Hempington Post is all about. Hempington Post has been around for the last 4 years, growing organically, and my main focus has been education, information on the hemp, everything hemp, because I know that this is actually the whole cannabis plant will save our world. Mm-hmm. It truly will. I'm extremely concerned about climate change, So our portal covers everything from around the world. I mean, we have, whether it's Culture, Forbes magazine doing something on fabric, or we're talking about the CBD world, or hempcrete, or hemp wood, or hemp plastic. It's very exciting because it's emerging.
Here's some hempcrete.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a little chunk of it there. That was made
build
in
houses with
Wisconsin
this.
or Nebraska. It's either
Yeah.
Wisconsin or Nebraska.
Well, it's so exciting because when I got into the industry, it wasn't legal yet, right?
Right.
Cannabis wasn't legal yet at all. So, and of course, I'm an herbalist. I love that, and I love the fact that cannabis marijuana is legal. But when it all started happening, I saw the hemp world is amazing because it has so many things to offer, and it would bring sustainability back to life. And that's my focus, is because we're on a downward trajectory, and we need to
The
go.
environment.
And we need to go the other way with the environment, with
Yeah.
wellness, with politics, with education, with everything. But environment and wellness is huge, and that's our life sustainability. And it's been taken away from us, as we know. In 1937, they took it all away, right, and started changing things
The federal
up.
government prohibited cannabis
Right.
for the first time.
And I learned the great word, the petrochemical industrial complex from Paul. I use
The
it a lot now.
petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, elite, fascist sons of a bitches who brought us marijuana prohibition. And I learned that from the late, great Gatewood Galbraith. Gatewood Galbraith passed away in January 2012, and I could not let that phrase pass with him.
Powerful.
And so
I
I'm
use it a
proud
lot.
to repeat it. It says it right there, doesn't it?
It does, and people are starting to wake
It's
up
always
and
the
merge
biggest
into it.
applause line when I give a speech.
I
gotta say.
met Gatewood back in, I think, 1993, before he originally ran for governor of Kentucky.
Yeah. He introduced me to Willie Nelson in 1990. So I
The man was
importing-
uncompromising.
Yeah, he's a great spokesperson who also passed away unexpectedly from pneumonia, just at 61 years of age.
Wow,
Yeah.
young.
If he'd just gone to the hospital a day earlier, he'd probably still be here right now.
Maybe not. Maybe he was done.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Hard to say.
You know.
But
Yes, so in covering these things and covering what's happening in the world of hemp, not necessarily marijuana, because marijuana will do its thing. I'm really concerned about the hemp world. And you read something in one of the laws that was passed, and I want to address this because I have a big concern.
Please
and this
do.
is the fact that people that take CBD or don't take CBD are super concerned about being drug tested for the THC level. And
or the metabolites is what they actually test for. It's not the THC that's in your blood and active. It's metabolites that are in your urine that may have been metabolized in your fat. For some of us that have a lot of body fat, there could be more of those for longer, you know. And so, but I'm sure I test off the scale anyway. You know, but,
but that's different levels of THC.
yes.
However, it's a huge concern because as I'm out and about, I talk to people. They would I would love to try CBD. I can't. I'm afraid. I'm afraid I'll be drug tested. So did I hear something in what you were talking about that, addressing that?
Yeah, the state of Nevada has said that you
My
can't discriminate
hometown,
against people
yay.
for marijuana, for testing positive for marijuana,
Oh,
for
that's
either housing or employment,
that's
or for marijuana convictions. So
most
that's
excellent.
just been signed into law by Governor Sisolak there in Nevada, and along with several other positive moves forward.
Right.
Nevada moves to the forefront.
That's because
And you live
it's
in
the
Nevada.
wild state. I live in Portland now, but I was there 38 years, so that's my hometown.
a long time.
Yes.
That's a long time.
Yes, I definitely. So my other question is, this law that passed when the president signed at 0.3%, right, which was good for, FDA and Food and Drug,
Just a step in the right direction.
has nothing to do with plastic, shoes, houses. So what happens when the farmer grows and it tests more than 0.03? Does the farmer have to get rid of it?
Well,
3.
0.3.
Yeah,
0.3.
it's
Thank
less
you.
than a third of 1% of THC. But if they're going to sell the seeds, it's possible that they could salvage the seeds. If they're going to sell the fiber, it's possible they could salvage the fiber. But they could be directed to destroy it if it tests higher than that.
Even
And-
if they're going to make shoes out of it, or a house, or a car.
Well, I'm not going to try to defend that. I don't think there should be a limit on THC. I think that's ridiculous. We shouldn't be judging the most productive varieties of cannabis for fuel, fiber, food based on its THC level. You know, we
Correct.
should be basing it on the quantity and quality of the fuel, fiber, and food it produces. And THC shouldn't really matter. And eventually it will be that way.
Right. Well, so the question is that because it is a law that it's supposed to be 0.3.
0.3.
Hello.
0.3 is
Yeah.
correct.
So 0%.
0.3, yes, okay, right.
0.3.
So then a plastic company, though, wouldn't need it to be that.
No, a plastic company needs seed oil. And so they will press the seeds and take the oil, and that won't have any THC in it.
Oh, so they could take from
and then
marijuana
what's left
or hemp?
over is food. And the oil can be used until it's rancid for fuel or plastic or food. Did you want to say something?
Well, yeah, without going too far outside of the current topic matter, this is actually something that is really crucial right now, because we have a situation where the federal law says that if it's over 0.3% delta 9 THC, then it is not federally recognized as hemp. That's the point at which we get to the federal classification for marijuana.
And
right?
I hear hemp farmers saying, oh, it's a little hot,
But
which means
we
some of it has a
also
little more.
have a situation where the U.S. Department of Agriculture has recommended that we raise that standard to 1% delta 9 THC over the current 0.3% standard. And then on top of that, we have both the state of Oregon and the federal government angling currently under regulations that have not yet been enacted, but will be enacted in 2020, to say that total THC, including decarboxylated THC acid, be added. And there's a little mathematical formulation that goes along with this. It's THCA times 0.877 equals total THC plus delta 9 equals, if that is over 0.3% THC, then all of a sudden you're a criminal. And if that made no sense whatsoever to the listening audience, that is exactly my point.
Right.
And
is
their
that
point.
Right.
totally
That's their point.
Right.
doesn't make any damn sense standard is what they want to force down our throats right now. And that's why we need to stand up for ourselves at this point and say, look, delta 9 THC at 0.3% is and has been the federal standard since the early 1970s, and they can't come in and make a new standard that's more all-encompassing to restrict more people from having access to this medication, because they just started to arbitrarily include a decarboxylated standard as part of the basic prescription for medication when it's not part of existing federal law.
Okay. Well, I agree. I
They've
think
got
our
to
viewers
back off
probably agree.
with this,
So,
man.
Yeah.
what can the people do? Because that's where we are with Hempington Post, and that's where you are with this. It's like, how can people get involved? Because as far as I'm concerned, it is the people.
We
that will
cannot
make-
allow the federal government and we cannot allow the state government to implement a standard which implies intent. When they're talking about decarboxylating THCA,
I don't know what that means.
THCV.
Well, there's a different
They're-
compound
they're,
called
uh,
THCA
they're-
and
they're
THCV
talking
that also
about
have medicinal properties.
by heating.
And
They're
hemp?
cannabinoids.
And hemp.
Yeah,
So-
in all
In all
cannabis.
What they're
cannabis.
talking about is by heating a compound which is not naturally psychoactive,
Yeah.
but when we heat it, then it breaks down into a psychoactive compound.
And that's called
Now,
decarboxylation.
specifically, delta 9 THC is a psychoactive compound.
It strips the carbon dioxide molecule
And
away from the rest of it. and makes it-
THCA is in its non-decarboxylated form, it's not considered to be psychoactive. But they want to establish a standard, and the state of Oregon and the federal government are trying to establish a standard where they assume that your intention is to decarboxylate the product and make it into something which will get you high.
Oh my.
Well, that's just going to
You
stop
can't
the
assume
implementation.
that. You cannot, absolutely cannot assume that as an intention.
Yeah. And so that
Most
stops
of these
the
products
production of hemp.
go into topical products that go into your skin. They go into hair care products. They go into products that you can consume sublingually to address a variety of different maladies. They go into products that can be administered as suppositories.
Right.
None of these methods of production require the decarboxylation of THCA. So assuming, as the state of Oregon and the federal government is attempting to do right now, that assuming that the decarboxylated product is the final product is not a correct way of approaching the problem. Most of these products are going to be used in a fashion which literally is physically not capable of getting you high.
We are down to just 4 minutes and 45 seconds left here.
Of the show?
Of the show. I know it's hard to believe, but we're at 53 minutes after the hour. And so I have a little 30-second clip that the folks from the Oregon Hemp Convention gave us last week as a promotion for the Oregon Hemp Convention, and we're going to roll that. We'll be right back. Okay, so the Oregon Hemp Convention's going down at the Hemp Expo. We will all be there tomorrow. Are you guys doing any presentations anywhere? You've got a booth, I know. You
10 till 5, OSGG will be at booth 145. Dale and I are
So
going to be there.
OSGG is the Oregon Sun Growers Guild, right? And that is a group of mainly Southern Oregon sun growers, right?
We have representation from California to Washington and from the coast into the Bend area.
Uh-huh. Well, I am a sun grower, as you probably know. So I should talk to you more about that after the show. But so you've got a booth, and you're just there
No, I'm
reporting?
just going to be walking around talking to people.
You put me in touch with the folks at Cush who invited me to be on these panels tomorrow.
You needed to be there completely.
I
Yes,
appreciate
yes,
that. It's
I'm
definitely.
a proud sun grower for 20 years.
All right, all right.
I'm a sun
I'm
worshiper.
proud of you. And so
Forever.
tell us, though, about how these regulations affect Project Scarecrow and medicinal access.
Well, with cannabinoid therapy exploding all over the nation with the new farm bill coming to light, a lot more Americans are looking towards cannabinoid therapy for relief, and that is something that our primary patient member base is really interested in. And so it's very important for us to pay attention to these regulations and the rules as they come down, so that we can make sure that the interest of our patient members are being looked after, and especially in respect to their health and wellness.
So we're down to just 2 minutes left, and I know Scott Sky Johnson's standing by to play a little electro music. Maybe he didn't know that, but he's ready now. So, Dale and Pete, how can people find out about Project Scarecrow?
You can find us online at www.projectscarecrow.org. We can also be found on Facebook at Facebook/Project Scarecrow. We're also on other social media channels like Twitter and Instagram.
Pete, how do they find out about the Sun Growers Guild?
OSGG on Facebook. You can find us online at OregonSungrown.org. You can reach me directly at PioneerPete at OregonSungrown.org. We look forward to everybody's participation because, quite frankly, we can't do it without you because we are you.
Darlene, how can people reach you?
Easy, Hempington Post,
Hempington Post.
hempingtonpost.com, and I will have both of these guys' story on Hempington Post because together
All right.
we grow. It's all about
And
everybody,
if you are a
right?
loved one, need help finding a doctor who can help you qualify for medical marijuana anywhere in the United States with any of these conditions or more, give us a call at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. I want to thank you for watching. Pete, Darlene, Dale, Scott, thanks for coming on. Next week we will have a tape show, but we'll be back live the following week on the 21st. Thanks for watching, and help restore hemp.
Yes.
Restore hemp. All right, thank you, Scott.
You know, being real leads to being kind. Won't you understand this simple truth? It stops messing with your mind. If you can't be true to yourself,